Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the episode of the Five Tool Baseball Podcast. I'm Dustin McComas, joined once again, as always, by Drew Bishop. This is episode 64. We had to kind of move some things around this week, so we'll just be recording, I believe, once on Wednesday today, as we'll be out at games later this week. But we've got plenty to talk about today. Drew and I both went to 3 playoff games after we last talked to y'all over this past weekend on Friday and Saturday. But first off, Drew, did you see the Reed Detmers no-hitter last night?
So I woke up, or I turned it on when I was watching. I just fell asleep to MLB Network, and then I woke up to the celebration of it. So that's usually how my nights go. Whenever Mary goes to sleep, I flip it over to MLB Network or whatever game is on. But I was flipping back and forth between the Rangers and Royals, and then a little bit of DBU Oklahoma State, which was a walk-off.
That game was wild. Yeah, that game was wild.
Yeah. And it's so funny, like the NCAA baseball Twitter page, they label every time a team wins over a team ranked higher than them as an upset.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I'm like, I mean, come on, like this isn't
Tuesday
football.
Midweek, and DBU is the home team. Like DBU is really good. Like, that's still what always drive me nuts too when they do that for college football games. Like, oh my gosh, this unranked team beat this ranked team. Is like, well, they're at home and they're a 4-point favorite. Like, what? That's not really an upset. But did you see the Anthony Rendon homer?
That was wild and not surprising.
So like I look, throwing a no-hitter is obviously an amazing achievement because there's not many guys that have done that. And to do it the way Detmers did it, 2 strikeouts, but I mean, he's throwing all his pitches for strikes, changeup, curveball, slider, fastball. I mean, he was just carving those guys up pretty easily. That's one of the reasons why he's able to do it, because he was still efficient in the 9th inning. But like, I kept going back to the Rendon homer, and I was like, that might be more impressive than throwing a no-hitter. It's like your first time ever to get in there, hitting left-handed, and to hit a homer, like what was like a 411-foot homer, like with your first swing. Like I like you said, knowing him, it's not as surprising as it would be if we didn't know a little bit about Anthony Rendon, but like, I could not believe that. I could not believe that, with the way the balls are playing right now and all that stuff. Like, and he had to generate some bat speed because he was facing Brett Phillips, a position player, who was only throwing about 60 miles an hour. I was stunned. I watched that like probably 20 times again this morning because I could not believe that he got in there left-handed and hit that homer.
Anthony, for me, he's still one of the like few people, probably 3, 4, 5 guys in my entire time at Texas that I just felt like every time he came up, he was going to hit a home run. Yeah. It's just like, it's like the fence doesn't matter where it is because he'll hit it over it. It's just, he's just one of those guys. And I even like, after we knocked them out of a regional in Austin, and I remember like waiting, he was the player, or one of the players that they chose to designate for the post-game press conference after they were eliminated. And I waited around to just like shake his hand and say, man, like it's been fun watching you play, because he's just one of those guys, one of the best college players ever, and just man amongst boys at that level, which, doesn't happen often.
No, I remember that regional you're talking about, because people were starting to get afraid where they were parking their cars in left field because he kept hitting line drives over the left field fence.
Yeah, gonna have to cancel some tennis. Well, I don't know if tennis has was even around then.
No, it wasn't there yet.
Okay, yeah, because like that would have been something they would have had to monitor, just like pause like whenever he's up to bat.
Yeah, that big parking lot back there. And it's just like he just kept hitting line drives out there. People had to like be aware of where they were parking because I met him. I was at when the Texas was playing at Rice, one of the opening weekends, he was there being honored. And I met him and I shook his hand. And you understand how he could hit the way he did, because I felt like he broke my hand with a handshake. Like his hands were
bear paws,
so big and so unbelievably strong. Like the only other guy that's ever, I've ever had that like handshake is Andrew Billings, who ended up being a first round pick out of Baylor in the NFL. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Like those hands are just different. That's one of the reasons why you hit as well as you did. But yeah, just a crazy night of baseball last night with the Reed Detmers no-hitter and the Anthony Rendon hitting a homer from the left side. And unfortunately, I had Corey Kluber active in 2 fantasy lineups, which 3 innings, 11 hits, 8 earned runs. That's gonna leave a sting on the old ratios for a while. It's that point in the year where like you move up in the roto standings, like one of those outings will send you down like 10 points, whereas the Reed Detmers no-hitter like sends you up like 6 or 7 points. So yeah, that was good. But what about Martin Perez? You brought up the Rangers, and I
picked him up for last night's outing.
Dude, I considered it, and he pitched for the Red Sox, and he'd always have these moments where he'd have like 3 or 4 starts. It's like, man, he looks really good, and then it would kind of fall apart. But he had 20 swings and misses last night. Like, he's a guy that typically, pitches to contact, control, command guy, weak contact, kind of the cutter, the sinker, and that sort of thing. Like when he was really good, it was just because he wasn't giving up hard contact. But 6 strikeouts, but 20 whiffs. I can't recall him ever having that many whiffs before. And I'm looking back, he had 10 on the sinker, which is incredible amount for a sinker. And then only 2 on the cutter, 6 on the changeup, a couple on the fastball curve. Like, man, he's been throwing the ball really, really well. But yeah, good pickup by you. I stared at his name a lot, and I ended up I just couldn't pull the trigger, but I should have, because the Royals have been terrible. It seems like offenses are kind of getting going again, but who knows with this baseball. I've seen Meredith Willis, who's like an astrophysicist who studies like the baseball, had a good thread yesterday, and it was just like, it was very, very discouraging. Like pitchers were talking about feeling squishy and like all these differences with the seams and everything else. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, you brought it up, and I looked and I was like, man, Martin Perez absolutely threw the heck out of the ball last night. So good day. Rangers creeping up closer to 500.
Man, if they could score if they could have scored any runs in New York, they might have had a clean sweep of that series.
Oh,
they pitched out of their minds, but lost.
Yeah,
like 3-1.
Dane Dunning's really been coming on lately. Perez has been throwing well. Feels like they're kind of getting the bullpen figured out a little bit. Corey Seager hit a couple of bombs last night, so yeah, maybe they're kind of turning the corner a little bit. But anyway, let's get to our games that we saw. The high school playoffs are rocking and rolling. Everybody's into the round 2 right now. A lot of exciting matchups happened. A lot of exciting matchups to come. I'm personally excited because there's a lot of good matchups in my neck of the woods. As a lot of those San Antonio teams are starting to match up against those Austin teams, which creates a lot of really, really good matchups as well. But I started my playoff trip down in the North Houston area, seeing Tomball and Bridgeland. It's one of the cool things about the state of Texas is I was at Bridgeland for a 4 p.m. game, and then I literally only had to drive 5 minutes to Cy Ranch for a 7:30 p.m. 6-day playoff game. Like, I don't know any other state that has that sort of thing where you could just park yourself at one playoff game in 6-day and drive 5 minutes to find another one. But Bridgeland ended up winning this game, but Tomball actually came back and won the series to go on to the next round. But Bridgeland won the game I was at. And a lot of the reason why was Justin Kim, a senior going to Princeton. He was up to 91 miles an hour.
He was awesome when I saw him early this summer. I was really impressed with him. Yeah. And another guy that I'll see, talking about that Ivy League connection, I'm hoping to see Tate Evans this week. So we'll see when he ends up throwing, but I'm going to see Marcus. But sorry, go ahead.
The Ivy League schools are doing a pretty good job, especially in the state of Texas, with some of these guys are pulling out of here. But he was up to 91 miles an hour, kind of manipulated shape his breaking ball a little bit, really competitive, threw strikes, quick arm. I mean, that's a really good get for Princeton. Ryan Williams kind of did his thing, a couple knocks. Nico Fernandez, UT Dallas, I've come across a couple of their guys recently, and I think they're doing a really good job with the guys they're getting in their program, but he stood out the bat. He also stood out when I saw Bridgeland earlier this year. But to me, like beyond Justin Kim doing his thing, Miles Siptak, a guy that we've heard some about,
Yep, super
sophomore
athletic.
Outfielder, awesome athlete, really moves well. He's got that some guys you kind of watch how they run and move around. They have that athletic, twitchy bounce in their step.
Yep,
That's
he
him.
can fly.
Play center field, get down the line 3.92 on a bunt, hit the ball hard twice, including one into the gap. I think he's going to be a dude. You start looking at the way the tools kind of grade out right now, what they look like in the future. Track the ball naturally in center field. I think he's got a chance to stick there, especially with the way he runs, and his athleticism. Looks like the arm was pretty decent as well. Uncommitted guy right now, but I have a feeling that when college programs really start to focus on 2024, and when we start to do our list for that class, he's going to be a guy that's going to be really popular. I left a big fan of him. Tomball had a pretty quiet game that game. It was good to see Chase Moore back out at shortstop. I know he had dealt with an injury earlier this year. He actually ended up pitching six and a third shutout innings on Saturday, which I was surprised because I was watching him throw at shortstop, and it looked like he was still kind of bothered by that, but he ended up pitching almost a complete game shutout for Tomball in their first Saturday game to help them stay alive. But every time I see him, like his bat speed looks like it's ticked up a little bit. And we know how important that is to really creating some impact with the baseball. Carried Arambide, catcher utility, committed to Florida in the 2024 class. He actually played third base this game and handled it pretty well. And I didn't really know what to expect there for a guy that was predominantly a catcher, but strong arm, moved pretty well at third base. And then Alan Lopez, a junior committed to Houston, got down the line really quick in the 4-2s. A guy that hits leadoff for Tomball, kind of making some things happen for them. But Tomball ended up punching their ticket there, winning the next two games, which it's a bummer for Bridgeland because Murphy Brooks has been dealing with a broken finger. So he, I believe, wasn't able to start any games, which, man, you lose your horse as you're heading into the postseason. That's a tough one to stomach there. But Tomball moves on, and Bridgeland's going to be a team that's going to be good again next year with Siptak. They've got a couple of other sophomores and juniors. They got an opportunity to make some noise down there, but Tomball moves on to the second round.
Yeah, and I was able to see Rockwall play Rowlett. Another cross lake rivalry, one that I was a part of multiple times, and shout out to our buddies Kyle Hancock and Danny Hamlin over at Rowlett, and who run the Texas Oilers. But I sat with Kyle for quite a bit. He had his coming out party. I think it was his sophomore year. He beat us in a game where he was just dominating. Everyone was like, who is this guy? We did win the series. I will say that. And just
that's the most important thing.
Right. So we got to get his name out there, but also came back and won the series, but just had to get that in there. But so heated game. Rowlett was a scrappy team. Odessa College commit Antonelli Sabateri.
Great name.
He played big time at the game I was at. He's been a good player all year. Odessa College commit, like I said. He hit a 3-run bomb, was 3 for 4 in that Thursday game. And true to form, like pretty much every game I go to somehow ends up in extra innings. And in this one, they went to extra innings, 2-2. Runners on base. Foul ball smokes the umpire right in throat. Like he went down. It was really scary. He was down for about 30 minutes, and then they came back, and that first batter hits a 3-run bomb to take the lead in the top of the 8th, 5-2. So Rockwall comes to bat in the bottom of the 8th. Hunter Holt led off with a walk, and then they got back to the top of the lineup. And the big name guys for Rockwall did what they're supposed to do. Reebok, clutch, getting on base, Braden Randall, and then Andrew Telia hits a 3-run. I guess it's I don't know how center fielder misplayed it. So ended up on third base, scored 3 runs. Braden Randall ran straight through a stop sign. And it was funny. Like you saw him coming around, like the only way that he wasn't going to stop is if Barry tackled him, Coach Rose tackled him. But he was just going, he scored. And then Overstreet got the sac fly for the winning run. But, the big name guys for Rockwall, Mac Rose was good. Really good on the mound. And I think it was interesting because, he had been moving the ball all over the both sides of the plate all game. And right before the home run, they ended up having to change out the umpires. And right before the home run, he made a pitch that he'd gotten called all night long. That would have been for the strikeout, and it didn't call it. And then he ended up with the home run. But, Matt came back and got on base in that inning, and, continues to be a big player for the Yellow Jackets. But they lost on Friday and ended up winning on Saturday to move on. They play Waco Midway this week. But I was impressed with Rowlett. They played good, solid baseball, really good defensively in that Thursday game when I was there. But yeah,
Rowlett is that the home of Brandon Loy?
Brandon Loy. Yeah. And Kyle Cheeseborough. Friend of the podcast. Yeah. But it was a hard fought game, good series. That led into the next night, another extra inning game between.
You guys are getting a lot of those in the Dallas area,
but it's good baseball. That's what makes it fun. But McKinney Boyd versus Coppell, got to see Ben Abel again. Was really, really good, dominant. He went 6 innings, 9 Ks, was just in the zone, and. Credit to Coppell. They hung in there, found a way to scratch out 2 runs and go to extra innings. And then Tanner Seaver with the big game-winning double, opposite field double off the wall to score. Let's see, I guess it would have been Polk. Yeah, he scored Walker Polk for the game-winning run. But our guy from the academic team, Andrew Nestor, started on the mound. And I guess they saved Pompey for the next game, but he was really good. Will Boylan came in relief, went 3 innings, getting 8 Ks. And
wow,
man, he in the 7th and the 8th, McKinney Boyd had runners on first and second with no outs, and he bared down, got out of it. But Nestor, I give him a lot of credit because Boyd had some momentum in the first inning. They hit a monster 2-run home run, and he just, he had a rough first inning, but he battled and got out of it, only allowing 2 runs, and then just started throwing up zeros. And before you look up, it's still only gave up 2 runs through 5. So he kept them in the game, which I know is what Coach Howard, that's why he went with Nestor in game 1, is he knew what he was going to get from the senior. And he's just steady player, really good player, uncommitted right now, but I just can't imagine that he doesn't play baseball in college. He's too good for that. Just a really good, that's a loaded Coppell team, and he's hit second for a good chunk of the year. Just a winning baseball player, but he was good. TJ Pompey was good. It's fun to watch him just field and throw the ball from short in between innings. I mean, it's so pretty. Like, he just has that natural ability and feel, and it looks like slow motion almost because it's so easy for him. Right. He's one of those guys that just nothing ever looks hard for him, but he was good at the plate, found his way on base, drew some walks. I think he got hit by a pitch, but a couple of stolen bases. So he was really good. Walker Polk was good. He had some good at bats, man, but it was a good environment. Like I said, Ben Abel was as advertised. I talked to Coach Howard from Coppell before and after the game, and he was like, they weren't sure, their biggest goal going into it was like, let's try to get his pitch count up, let's get him out of there. And man, they were really bearing down in at bats. Like I said, Abel had 9 Ks and was dominant at times, but Coppell just didn't give in, and they just kind of fought their way through it and held on, and then got the 3-2 win on Thursday, and then ended up, I think, winning. I think it was 3-2 again on Saturday. So they moved on and they played Jesuit this week, which should be a good series. But I think, Coppell's got a chance, man. They play really, really good baseball. And like we talk about all the time, these teams that can pitch and play defense and are good up the middle, they're always going to have a chance.
They played Jesuit. That should be a good one. But yeah, it looked like Abel, from the video you guys got. I mean, it's a unique delivery, but it's just like the fastball is just like on a line. Like it's just, it's a dart that just comes in there. And we know he doesn't throw like 95, but still the way it plays, like out of that delivery and out of that slot and stuff like that, it can be really, really tough to pick up. But yeah, you mentioned, an uncommitted senior that's too good enough to keep playing. I saw one as well when I was down at Cy Ranch for that second game Friday night. When I went to go see Cy Ranch against Klein Cain, and Alex Renfro, who started on the mound for Cy Ranch, he's a senior. He actually catches a little bit for them too. I saw him in February when I went to a scrimmage, and he was an interesting player then. He had some swings and misses on the slider. The velocity wasn't big, but he was throwing strikes. He was a legitimate catcher behind the plate, and he started and threw into the sixth inning of what ended up being a shutout win for Cy Ranch over Klein Cain. And, he was only up to 86, 84, 85 mostly, but threw a ton of strikes. His slider is almost like a cutter, but he had some success with that. He started mixing his changeup to both lefties and righties, showed a curveball as well. But if like you were saying, if you just simplify it, okay, the guy pitches and catches for one of the best teams in the area that won its district, that he hits in a pretty decent spot in the lineup. Like he carries himself like a great competitor. Coach knows what he's going to get out of him. I was texting with Coach Cephas, checking in on him. I was like, hey, is this kid still uncommitted? And he's like, yeah. And he's pitched like that all year. Like just gets out there, competes, throws strikes. Nobody scores any runs on him. And like that kind of guy is too good not to keep playing baseball. So, I mean, if you're a D2 coach or a D3 coach in the area and you tune in, highly recommend guys like that like they're a part of success and they're a big part of success, whether it's leadership, performance, whatever it is. So he ended up throwing deep into that game against Klein Cain. Cy Ranch ended up winning that game and then ended up winning the series. But it was really good to see Christian Salazar back in the lineup, 2022. Rice signee, a guy I saw in the fall. I saw in the summer, then I saw him again in the fall, and I was a huge fan. One of my favorite swings in the class from the right side. He was back in the lineup in center field. He's been dealing with a back injury for most of the year. Looked the part on Friday. Got down the line 4.29. Another time he was down there in 4.3. Played well defensively. The swing stood out, just missed a homer. He kind of caught the top of the ball a little too much. The top spin liner to deep left field, made contact every time he was in there. Big fan of him. I think that he's got a real chance to possibly make an impact early on at Rice. One of those guys that can just time velocity, whether it's mid 80s, upper 80s. I've seen him face some real stuff before in the summer and the fall, and he just times it every single time. But Tobias Motley, Rice commitment in the 2023 class. I think that his skill is kind of trended up since I've last seen him. I saw them in February, saw them again this past week, and he looks like a little bit of a better player. The game's kind of slowing down for him a little bit. I like that he makes adjustments. He did this last time I saw him. Punched out the first at bat against Ryan Hanks, who's one of the best pitchers in the area. And then the next couple of bats, hard contact. Got down the line in 4.15. He's an athletic player. I think he's got a chance to stick at shortstop. I mean, if he's playing it well at the high school level, but if that skill keeps going, he's got a chance to stick there. And then, we talk a lot about HBU, and I saw they just grabbed a commitment from this guy last week or 2 weeks ago, Joshua Ibe. He's a power hitter that's been hitting in the middle of that Cy Ranch lineup. He's got a lot of raw power, and he gets to it in games too. He had a couple of rockets in this game that I was at. So the HBU continues to do a really good job on the recruiting trail. I've seen them out a little bit recently too at playoff games, one of the few colleges I've seen out then. But Cy Ranch got the win on that one. Ryan Hanks, kind of a tough night for him. His defense didn't really help him out much. Klein Cain's catching situation was a little bit, I could tell, was a little bit frustrating for him. He was up to 89. The curveball was inconsistent. I think that kind of once things got off the rails a little bit defensively, it kind of affected his control some. But he's heading to Arizona State, and Arizona State's got to be excited about that one. But yeah, Cy Ranch continues to win. You know, I remember when I was seeing them early in the year, it's like they're well coached, they really compete, they play catch, and they just figure out ways to win games. And they've got a sophomore outfielder too, Jackson Priest, who I noted in February. He stood out again. Looks like a guy that's, you know, as he matures, could be one of those all-around tool sets. Not as fast as a Miles Siptak, but kind of that mold of an athletic guy that can run a little bit. He lets the ball in play, uses all parts of the field, takes really advanced at bats for his age. So I think that he's a guy that in that 2024 class is probably going to get some, maybe it's more mid-major, but he's going to get some D1 attention, I think, from coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. And we, on Saturday, Brooks and I are headed over to Highland Park to see a matchup that happens, feels like almost every year in the playoffs, but Highland Park and Cleburne, you know, both schools have a lot of history of success at the high school baseball level. Cleburne ended up winning, and man, they just played scrappy baseball, and it just felt like it was on repeat. They were just poking balls through the 4-hole, just between first and second base, and being very opportunistic. A couple of guys that stood out for me in that game, Cooper Schneider, center fielder from Cleburne, is elite defensively. I mean, just the way he tracks the ball is fun to watch. Like, he's a guy that it just, you know, I don't know how fast he is, but it doesn't really matter because he gets to everything and is in a great position to do so. Like,
I bet he'd be a good S2 guy.
I mean, he's just one of those guys we talk about, just the way he catches the ball. Like, you know, he can put his glove somewhere, you know, 5 seconds before the ball lands, and the ball's going to land in his glove. And it's just, he has an elite feel for the position, and you can just tell that playing outfield's like, you know, a walk in the park for him all the time. But he's a Dodge City commit, member of the 22 Texas Sticks scout team, but fun to watch him. On the mound in game 3 for Cleburne was Pedro Martinez.
Hello.
Yeah, it was fun. He battled and got out of some jams and got on base a couple of times.
Speaking of Pedro, if you're tuning into the YouTube version, I've got here, this was the gift I got from my wedding group. Pedro Martinez signed rubber with the Hall of Fame 2015 on there. So
from your wedding group?
What do you call it when your groomsmen get you a gift for your wedding?
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember? Do you need to text your groomsmen? Like, that's.
I mean, I know I got my groomsmen gifts, but I don't remember getting.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, that's that. Yeah, you need to mark that down, write that down. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe need to go back and claim.
Yeah. So yeah, when you mentioned Pedro, I had to get the mound out.
Okay. Yeah, but he was good. I think Cleburne ended up winning 6-1. They had a big top of the 6th where they scored 4 runs and kind of separated themselves. But they came back, and Highland Park had some chances in the bottom of the 6th where they were they ended up with bases loaded and either got 1 run or no runs. But yeah, the game was closer than the score. But because it was still in doubt. Bottom of the 6th, they had every chance to get back in. And they had a really controversial call. I think it was the second batter of the inning. They'd walk the first guy, and next guy gets hit on a 3-2 count, and they called him out. I guess they said he, tried to get hit, but they called him out. So I don't know.
Him out?
Yeah. So I don't. is that the rule? Like if you intentionally try to get hit, it's a strike, or the umpire has judgment as to whether it would have been a strike?
I'm not.
I don't
That's a
know.
new
I don't know
one
what the
for
rule is.
me.
I don't know what the rule is at the high school level, but
Yeah.
yeah, he gets hit on a 3-2 count and they called him out. So, and
That's-
that kind of, yeah, that was a big moment in the game.
Yeah, nothing like having
say
that
the
in a
Highland
playoff game.
Yeah, there was. It was. I'll just say it was contested
Yeah.
by many
A lot of voices.
Highland Park fan, player, and coaching staff. And I was down the line, so I couldn't see it. But yeah. So, but anyways, Cleburne moves on. Got some more good matchups this week. Like I said earlier, going to Flower Mound Marcus and JJ Pierce.
Nice.
Tomorrow night. Friday, I'm going to catch Lake Ridge versus Heath.
That would be a good one.
Yeah. So they, Lake Ridge has a couple 24 guys that'll end up on our list for sure. And I'm excited to see those guys live. I don't know what the pitching matchup is yet, but should be there's good arms on both sides, obviously, and get another look at our guy Jet, who just keeps climbing up the draft rankings.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
But yeah, he just continues to put up big numbers and do all the little things right when scouts have seen him. And
I looked like, I feel like they started the year like 9-3 and something like that. They're 28-4. Like,
yeah.
I mean, man, because I remember like, they're kind of off to a slow start. Everybody was off to a slow start,
Right.
And I looked up and I was like, oh my gosh, they're 28-4. Like they just don't lose. Apparently.
No, they're obviously well coached. They play good baseball. They're really good up the middle, and they don't make mistakes.
Yeah,
so
it can win you
a
lot of
themselves.
games.
It does. And they have a lot of returning experience on the mound and guys that have been there with Johnny Lowe and Baylor Ballman. And now they've got Cade Sharp back in the mix, which is huge.
Nice to add that to the mix.
Yeah. So don't have him. And then Trevor Tranber. I mean, they just got a lot of arms. Colin Adams. But yeah, it's
Saturday
I have a chance to go deep.
Saturday, I went up to Lake Travis. It was the first day where it was like, it's creeping up to triple digits on the old thermometer. Got to see Lake Travis and Vandegrift, and I got another look at OJ Gonzalez, who I've seen him have better stuff, but you look up and it's the 7th inning and he's got a shutout one hitter going, basically. Ended up only giving up, I believe, 3 hits, maybe 4 strikeouts, 4 walks, was up to 89 miles an hour, just really competes, really efficient. I think he was barely above 80 pitches as they got into the 6th inning. Lake Travis ended up winning that game 3-0. Cole Johnson with a big swing of the bat, hit a 3-run homer over the left center wall. He continues to really get to that power at a high rate.
Academic team.
Man, that academic team has produced a lot of big time players. But Lake Travis ended up winning that series with that game. Caden Kent was asked to come in and with 2 runners in scoring position. I love this because it was the only slider he threw all game, and he shook to it and struck a guy out. Like, just shows a lot of confidence. He just carries himself with a ton of confidence when he's out there. But Lake Travis moves on, and Gonzalez has really had to step up for them with Luke Jackson being out, and Ethan Calder's been pitching for them as well, and I believe Jackson Baker too. But that Lake Travis team moves on, and OJ Gonzalez, man, it's I think he's starting to pitch his way into possibly being in the 55 consideration. And I know some big D1s have already extended a couple of offers, and I know he's on the radar of a lot of programs. I mean, he was Lake Travis's pitcher of the year for the regular season. I mean, he just throws a ton of quality strikes, and he's the same guy every single time he's out there, which we know the value of throwing quality strikes and just being that steady presence on the mound. But on the Vandegrift side, Braden Buchanan had one of the few hits of 2023. Baylor commit that's on our 5-55 list. Connor Freeman, a junior lefty. His velocity was down. I know we saw him earlier this year when he was up to about 86. He's only in the 77 to 80 range when I saw him, but tall, long athlete. I think he's one of those guys that I think could make a jump as he just kind of grows into his body, gets more comfortable with the moving parts and gets stronger and things like that. But anytime you've got a tall, long, athletic lefty, that's going to be a guy that's going to have a chance to really blossom there. And Jackson Lohr is another junior who plays outfield, hit at the top of the lineup from the left side. I liked his swing, really active hands in the load, but he's able to do that because his hands are so quick and so strong that he kind of uses it as a timing mechanism. I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to have an opportunity to be recruited, and especially somebody that we should probably keep tabs on this summer. But Lake Travis ended up punching its ticket to the next round. Vandegrift had a really good year. I saw them a couple of times. They've got a bright future there with, all those guys I mentioned. Freeman, Buchanan, and Loers will be back again next year. But Lake Travis moves on, and I believe they play San Antonio Johnson, who I've seen as well, with Mason Bixby and Ryan Farber and a couple of guys there. Kason Cunningham, Mason Cron. They've got some dudes up and down that lineup. So that should be a really, really good one. I might make it out to one of those. I'm trying to figure out the pitching matchups between that and Smithson Valley and Austin Westlake. Round Rock Westwood plays somebody, San Antonio Clark in the area. Yeah. And then Georgetown plays Floresville, which I think I'm going to go see on Saturday. Get a look at our guy, Preston Freeman, who's on the 5-55 list. Nice. For there. And then see Georgetown again, Riley, I think it's Leidinger or something. The video I showed you, that swing. Yeah. Man, you talk about a really good looking swing from a sophomore. And I was texting with coach over there at Georgetown, and he's been hitting the ball well and performing at a high level for them. And that Georgetown team just keeps winning games. They just figure out a way to win games. So a lot of really good matchups in the area. It's nice to have a bunch of multiple ones. Kind of in Austin, as these San Antonio and Austin teams kind of start clashing and meeting up in these matchups and things like that. But really excited. And I got to get a shout out too to I know this guy listens a lot and he leaves us some really nice feedback and stuff. Scott Pretty, his son Connor threw a no-hitter in a playoff game from Lago Vista, sophomore right-handed pitcher. And we retweeted the video, but we always talk about, like, when you have a no-hitter like that, there's always a play that keeps the no-hitter going, or you think back to is like, that was the one that allowed this to happen. And we retweeted it there. So really cool moment for Connor, a guy that's been having a good season for Lago Vista as they're in the playoffs. And it's just it's cool to see those moments. And just the excitement in that those guys will never forget that. They had a picture after the game, pitcher and catcher have grown up playing together. Like, those guys will remember that the rest of their lives, having pitched a no-hitter in the playoffs. So shout out to Connor and congratulations on the no-hitter. It's really cool to see that sort of stuff. And there's always a moment. There's always a play. There's always a moment. There's always something in a no-hitter that kind of keeps it going. Like we talked about Reed Detmers, like, he needed his defense for 25 of those 27 outs last night. So the defense was doing the job as well and helping him get to that no-hitter. And then those guys shared that moment on the field afterward as well. But it's the weather is heating up, but so are these playoff matchups as well. A lot of big time programs and big time matchups this weekend. I have to look at the 4A thing. I haven't actually looked at like the bracket, but I'm trying to figure out when Cal Allen and Sinton could potentially meet, because they're like listed side by side on the schedule at TexasHighSchoolBaseball.com, but I should have looked at the bracket to see, because I'm curious when that could possibly happen. But anyway, I'm just kind of rambling on here, but looking ahead already, even though I don't have my schedule for this week completely mapped out yet, as I'm kind of waiting to hear back on some pitching and things like that. So yeah, exciting. It's gonna be good. And as this, what is this? The area round? I guess we first is by district, and then I think there's like area, or I don't know. I guess it just goes on for a little while. I don't remember the official names, but I just know there's still a lot of
one thing that, it's funny. One thing that's kind of stuck out to me over that first weekend of playoff games is that big time players show up for these kind of games.
Yeah.
And I saw that theme like all the way through the weekend. For Rockwall, Braden Randall had a couple home runs. Mac Rose pitched well and hit.
I swear Braden Randall had like 9 highlights I saw on Twitter from that series alone.
He hit 2 home runs on Friday. Was just, he's just in the middle of stuff all the time. Pearson Reebok, he just has a knack for getting on base in big situations. He's one of those guys. Like I said, Pompey made some plays. He got on base. Walker Polk with the double. Landry Fee, who's been big for Coppell all year. Ben Abel, even though he didn't get the win, he didn't get the loss, and just pitched lights out. I mean, he was as advertised. And then you had Will Boylan, like you said. I think he got the win in. I think he got a win and a save in the series. But I think, because I think he closed it out on Saturday. But man, just, it just kind of a testament that the guys that really perform, the big name guys, that they show up when it matters.
Yeah.
And so far through the playoffs, that's kind of been a theme for me.
And that and I think that it's why us getting out to games matters so much, because that sort of stuff to me is probably the most impactful thing. Like when we're thinking about players, it's one of the we try to see good on good. You try to see hitters against good pitching and that sort of stuff. You don't always get it, but I mean, that sort of stuff really sticks with me. We talked last time, Jason Vallette against Katie with district title on the line, last regular season game for him, hits 2 homers, 2 great plays in the outfield, super fired up. He's leading his team. That'll when I think about Jason Vallette next time when we do rankings, everything like that, that's going to be what sticks with me is to that point, the biggest game of their season, he was the dude. There was no ifs, ands, and buts. He was the best player on the field. And it's also too, we can talk about tools and talent and all that sort of stuff matters. But if it comes time and you're playing in these big games and you're not getting to those tools and you're not showing that skill and you're not rising to the occasion that sort of way, whereas you got these other guys that might not have the loudest tools in the world, they're still really talented players, and here they are just they're in the middle of everything. That sort of stuff matters. It's one of the reasons why Braden and Randall is going to move up our list in 23, because it's just every single time there's a big game or anybody sees him or anything, he's impacting it somehow, running the bases, hitting homers, defense, whatever it is. Those are the types of guys that you bet on, because it's just when you're projecting these guys to jump in competition, there's going to be more stress. There's going to be, you're going to see better pitching all the time. Or if you're a pitcher, you're going to see better at hitting. And how do you handle all that in the environments and everything like that? These playoff atmospheres and stuff like that will give you a really good feel for who can probably handle that and who might struggle with it a little bit.
I think this is correct. I've heard it from a couple of places, but I haven't officially verified. But I think Jet had 7 RBIs in the first inning.
Oh, in the first inning. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
wow.
Setting the tone.
7 RBI in the first inning. Oh man. That's that's a good month for some players, and that's just a first inning for him. So that's he's one of the ones that like went out to area code and like guys were kind of struggling to keep their head above water, and he just steps in there like it's another game. Like that's, you bet on those guys. Like that's a big deal. So I finally found a 4A bracket and looking down here. So yeah, Sinton and Cal Allen wouldn't meet for a while. It would be 1, 2. It would be 2 more rounds, which means it's probably gonna happen at some point there. But yeah, that's it's kind of fun to look ahead and see the potential matchups and things like that. But yeah, but it's no coincidence that sometimes like you go out and see these big district games and things like that, and the same guys are in the middle of it. Like that's that sort of stuff matters. I know when we sit down and talk about our lists and things like that, like that'll be the stuff that sticks out to us. Like, yeah, like I went to this game and it's a rivalry game in district, and stands are packed, and he's mashing the ball in the biggest moments of the game. It's like, okay, that's a big sign for sure. But hopefully we see more of that this weekend and the coming weeks as the playoffs march towards the state tournament eventually there, which is what, the first week of June, I think, or it's the last week of May, or
no, it's in June. It's
in June. Yeah, I thought it was in June. So yeah, it's heating up. It'll be hot. I already had a first instance of my phone overheating while I was trying to get some video. So it's that time of the year for sure. So stay hydrated when you're out there, and make sure you get your sunscreen. Do you put sunscreen on every time you go?
No, but
you wear long sleeves though.
I'm a long sleeve guy. Like,
damn, I've got to get. Yeah, I don't like. I'll try to wish
you're gonna be sweating regardless.
True, but
so,
like,
I don't.
Yeah,
I've started putting sunscreen on my face and neck. I didn't never do that before, but I have.
Yeah, my neck and face. That's typically.
Just gotta avoid ever taking your shirt off. Yeah, because it's a bad look.
Yeah, no, it's it
looks like it's photoshopped because of the different colors. So
mine will definitely stay on there for sure. But you got anything else before we get out of here?
I don't. Excited to see some more good baseball.
Yeah. This last weekend was good. It was good, and I don't know about you weather-wise, but I think I'm in the clear this week, so we won't have to play weatherman.
Oh, don't say that.
Don't any potential matchups or anything like that. But if you missed our last podcast last Thursday, make sure you go check it out. Especially if you're a player or parent, that's a senior that's, wants to keep playing, and maybe you don't have the opportunities that you were hoping for. We had TCS post-grad director Logan Harrington on last week to talk about their program and what they're doing at TCS post-grad. Really good opportunity to keep playing baseball, go get as much training and opportunity to play and work on your craft, work on your body, work on your mental stuff, maybe get ahead of the classroom a little bit. Really good opportunity to keep playing baseball, and I encourage people that are maybe a senior that doesn't have that chance yet, but wants one. I would definitely look into TCS postgrad and go back and listen to our podcast with Logan Harrington, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, on Podbean. We tweet these out. You can see our beautiful mugs on YouTube. We publish all the video versions on YouTube as well. And if you're enjoying the podcast and you listen on Apple Podcasts, you leave us a nice rating review. We would appreciate it. Helps us kind of get out there a little bit more and get discovered a little bit more in those crazy algorithms and all that stuff. But that wraps us up for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following our coverage. We're going to be out on more playoff games this weekend. We'll have more to talk about next week. And until we talk to y'all, take care.